If you're trying to build a house in a large economy right now, stop, put down the hammer, call your contractor, and ask one question: where is the wood coming from? Because as of this morning, in this scenario, the answer changed. And that change could cost you about $7,482. For years, policymakers operated on a simple assumption: the northern country has the trees, the southern country has the buyers, and the North will always sell, no matter the rhetoric, no matter tariffs, no matter political tension. That assumption just got shaken. President Dalton tried to pressure the northern government. He believed the threat of a major trade conflict would force Prime Minister Calder to compromise. Before we go deeper, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below. Your engagement pushes this reporting to more people and tells the algorithm you want independent, unfiltered geopolitical analysis. Dalton expected Calder to fold quickly, but Calder didn't blink. Instead, he used a lever many policymakers forgot existed. You are watching a hypothetical pivot. The moment a superpower realizes natural resources can't be created on demand. Look at the markets in this scenario. Lumber futures aren't just rising, they're spiking. Construction sites across multiple states are slowing down. Why? Because the supply chain is tightening. This isn't just a trade disagreement anymore. It resembles an economic standoff. And for the first time in this storyline, the larger economy finds itself short on a key input. In the next 30 minutes, we walk through what supposedly happened over the last 24 hours. We look at the policy Calder triggered, the numbers involved, and what it could mean for housing costs and regional partnerships. Dalton wanted a fight. Calder gave him a math problem. So what happened? At 8 a.m. Eastern in this hypothetical timeline, the Northern government released a quiet document through its Natural Resources Ministry. No press conference, no shouting, just paperwork. The document outlined a framework called the Strategic Resource Preservation Act. Simple explanation: the North placed an environmental sustainability cap on soft lumber exports to countries not aligned with certain carbon trade standards. In this scenario, the Southern administration did not meet those standards. The flow of lumber wasn't banned, just slowed. New inspections, compliance fees, and quota limits. Within 2 hours, framing lumber prices jumped about 27% in the fictional market reaction. By noon, major home builders paused purchasing orders because they didn't know next week's price. Dalton responded publicly, criticizing Calder and threatening heavy tariffs on northern energy exports. But while statements were being made, trade officials were reportedly contacting buyers in Europe and Asia to secure alternative contracts. Here's the shock. Dalton believed leverage was on his side. Calder showed alternative markets existed. While the southern market depended heavily on this supply, there was no quick backup source in the scenario. Domestic forests were limited, and building codes required specific lumber types historically imported from the north. Let's examine 3 pieces of evidence inside this narrative. First, inventory reports. Industry data suggested tight lumber inventories even before the policy. The South imported roughly 46% of its lumber, and about 79% of imports came from the North. A 34% export cap mathematically creates shortages. Second, the green premium clause. Instead of calling it a tariff, Calder labeled it an environmental sustainability surcharge tied to conservation policy, making legal challenges slower. Third, port activity signals. Shipping volumes headed south declined, while shipments toward overseas markets increased. The spike in futures prices reflected uncertainty. Companies worried about layoffs due to missing materials. Now we get into negotiation psychology. Dalton uses escalation and pressure tactics. Sometimes it works against weaker opponents, but against a highly structured economic planner, it struggles. Calder understands systemic risk. Housing affordability connects directly to political stability. Targeting lumber targets cost of living. In this narrative, home prices could rise roughly $37,911 from material shortages alone. What can Dalton do? He can't instantly grow forests. He can't easily switch building standards. Importing from distant markets costs even more, so he faces limited short-term options. Every threat strengthens Calder's diversification argument: find new customers. Emergency meetings begin. Subsidies are discussed, but subsidies don't create supply if supply isn't there. Leadership styles diverge. Dalton, short cycle messaging; Calder, long cycle structural policy. Calder frames actions as environmental management, not retaliation. That makes international criticism unlikely. The world watches but does not intervene. Buyers benefit from redirected supply. For decades, the North acted as a junior partner. Now it signals independence. Why does this matter beyond construction? Because lumber acts as a bellwether. If supply chains shift here, they could shift in energy, minerals, or electricity trade. An integrated continental economy depends on cooperation. Break one gear, the machine slows. Families feel it through inflation and housing affordability. Businesses might pressure leadership to negotiate possible outcomes. Scenario A, business pressure leads to compromise and normalization. Scenario B, escalation disrupts broader trade flows. Scenario C, permanent supply realignment toward overseas markets. Normally, diplomacy resolves disputes quietly, but if neither side de-escalates, uncertainty continues. The lesson isn't just about lumber, it's about supply chains and dependence. Supply chains are economic security. When leaders gamble with them, citizens bear the cost. So the question becomes, is this a wake-up call or just the first crack before something bigger? Tell me your take below. Subscribe so you don't miss the next update. Stay aware.